Lower decks may be coming to an end, but they are not going gently into that good night. Instead, they are going out with as many phaser fights, spacewalks, and Easter eggs as possible. So grab your riding crop and your gold-pressed latinum nose ring for this breakdown of Season 5, Episode 1, Dos Cerritos. In the A-plot of this episode, the crew of the Cerritos is pulled through a quantum fissure and finds themselves facing their doubles. Each person is the result of making slightly different choices in life, which leads sometimes to wildly different outcomes. While many of the doubles have very interesting deviations, I want to highlight the top 4 doubles that this episode really pays attention to. The first is the Captain Freeman doubles. Now on our Cerritos, Captain Freeman is always working really hard to have Starfleet take her seriously. As soon as they enter the rift and see that the alternate Cerritos is being captained by Becky Freeman, the question immediately arises, what has happened to her counterpart? It's not until the end of the episode that we find out from Handsome Ransom that their Captain Freeman has been banished to Starbase 80, and then the fissure closes. Understandably, Captain Freeman is devastated by this news. But in my opinion, this was a total relief, because I was afraid she was either dead or had turned into a Borg or something. So I mean, at least she's still alive. The second highlight is the Boimler double. At the start of the episode, Boimler is so excited that he has finally made the top 30 under 30 in this Starfleet magazine. Unfortunately, as he goes through the magazine, he sees that he's been cut. Not only did he not make the 30, but he also didn't even make the 15 honorable mentions. But when he meets his double, it's clear that bearded Boimler is totally different. He seems really cool and confident. We find out that he's always doing away missions. He often takes over for the captain. And later on, we discover that he was even on the cover of 30 under 30. He instantly becomes Boimler's new ambition/obsession. At one point, he begs bearded Boimler to walk him through really quickly every single decision he's ever made in his life to get him to this point. But bearded Boimler is really confident in not only his abilities, but also Insecure Boimler's abilities, and assures him that he has his own path to walk. Insecure Boimler's not so sure. So instead, he steals bearded Boimler's data pad and starts poring over his personal logs. The third highlight is the Rutherford double. On our Cerritos, Rutherford is still devastated by Tendy's absence. So he's working himself to the bone to keep away the sad thoughts. And we discover that on the alternate Cerritos, Tendy has also left that crew to go and be an Orion pirate. But Rutherford dealt with it very differently. Instead of throwing himself into his work, he's basically turned himself into a Borg. He has tried to shed as much humanity as possible so that he doesn't have to feel sadness or anything else. While Rutherford does think all these new modifications are pretty cool, it also makes him sad that Rutherford's not open to making friends. So naturally, he adjusts his programming just a little bit to trick Rutherford into thinking that he actually is there to make friends. And I think this works out the best for the both of them, because they both realize that turning their backs on humanity and friendship is not the answer. The fourth highlight is the Mariner double. At the start of the episode, we discover that Mariner has been given a group of ensigns to train, and she's terrified. She does not see herself as a leader, and she's pretty sure she's gonna mess it all up. But on the alternate Cerritos, we find that her counterpart is actually the captain of the ship. It's clear that Captain Becky Freeman commands a lot of respect on her Cerritos, and she agrees to show Mariner the ropes. And by ropes, I mean riding crop and a slew of brigs. It turns out that Becky rules with an iron fist, because she believes that fear is the best motivator. Mariner quickly realizes that she doesn't want to be this kind of leader. She doesn't want to cover up her insecurities by becoming a tyrant. Ironically, Becky discovers the exact same thing. By the end of the episode, she phasers Mariner and tries to swap places because she's tired of the responsibility, she's tired of being a leader, and she remembers how good she had it back in the day. Of course, she's found out immediately and swapped back just before the fissure closes. The B plot of this episode really focuses on Tendy's pirating adventures. Last season, she left Starfleet temporarily to settle a debt by working for her sister. When the episode opens, Tendy is with her small crew, pirating and pillaging and doing what they do. Her sister tells her that if she makes one last score, it will clear her debts and she will be able to go back to Starfleet. All she has to do is recover this ancient Orion warship. Shortly after Tendy and crew arrive, they are met by hostile blue Orions and everyone immediately opens fire. Now, this whole time, Tendy has been trying to keep her crew from stabbing everyone and everything that they see. Turns out the only reason they're like that is because they think that if they become the best pirates in the world, they will be able to earn their freedom from this lifestyle so they can pursue the lives of their dreams. Tendy promises to help them pursue their passions as long as they promise to stop stabbing everything they see. They end up winning the ship back from the blue Orions using laughing gas, which is pretty adorable. Erica is so happy to get back this warship, which turns out to be a medical frigate, that she clears Tendy's debt and tells her she's free to go. However, at that exact moment, word comes to them that the Blue Orions have declared war because Tendy's actions were unpirate-like. Tendy's torn because she really wants to go back to Starfleet, but she also realizes that this mess is kind of her fault, so she agrees to stay as long as it takes to clear this up. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really fun, and I think the A and B plots were very different, but also super clear and interesting, creative, hilarious. Well done. Now I want to give some awards to parts of the episodes that I just thought were genius. Let's start with the Best Trek Trope Award. I have 3 Trek tropes that I really enjoyed. The first was getting sucked into the quantum fissure in the first place. It seems like no matter how far away these ships park to some kind of spatial phenomenon, they're always way too close. It's inevitable that they get caught in some gravitational pull or some kind of temporal eddy, or that the phenomenon itself suddenly gets way bigger and then they get sucked in. Classic. The second is the mirror universe and the double swap. It's just so Star Trek, and it's so fun. Every time there's a mirror universe or a double swap, that always gives us a chance to see the same crew we know and love in just a little bit different of a light, and I'm always here for that. The third is the ticking clock. This is what gives a lot of urgency to whatever the big problem is. In this case, they had exactly 10 hours before the fissure closed permanently forever, so they really had to work together in order to open the fissure back up and give the Cerritos a chance to get back to their correct universe. The next award goes to my favorite Easter eggs. As always for Lower Decks, there are a million Easter eggs in every single episode, and I'm never going to be able to capture them all. But in this episode, there were 4 Easter eggs that I really loved. And if you have a favorite Easter egg that I don't mention, be sure to drop it in the comments below. The first was the mention of Naomi Wildman, which just made me so happy. So when Boimler was complaining about not making the 30 under 30 or even the honorable mentions, he casually shares that Naomi Wildman was in the honorable mentions and she's only 10 years old. I just love the idea that now that Naomi and the entire Voyager crew have made it to the Alpha Quadrant, she's still out there doing her thing. Good for her. The second Easter egg was when Mariner and T'Lyn were playing Calto. I don't know how many times we actually see Calto being played on the show. I remember once or twice seeing Tuvok play it, but it was just so fun to see it again. The next Easter egg comes from the very start of this episode when we saw that alien who was Kivas Fajo's friend and fellow collector in Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 22, The Most Toys. Not only do we get to see this alien, but we also get to see his collection and see that he gets robbed by Tendi, which is just so many layers of goodness, you know? And the fourth Easter egg is the Blue Orions that we initially meet in Star Trek The Animated Series, Season 2, Episode 1, The Pirates of Orion. Now, I've never actually seen the animated series, but while doing research for this video, I found the whole concept of these aliens to be hilarious. And they are the perfect ones to bring into Lower Decks. The award for episode MVP goes to Tendi. I really appreciate that throughout this episode, she has to be a pirate, okay, but she's trying to keep the maiming and murdering to a minimum. She's also an inspiration for other young pirates who are kind of over this lifestyle, and I love that for her. Now when it comes to a future forecast for this season, I have a few final thoughts. This early in the season, it's really unclear what the season arc mystery will be, or if there even will be one. There are only 10 episodes left to give us all the juicy character payoffs that we really want, so they may just want to do a bunch of one-off episodes, but I am hoping they do a season-long mystery because that's always fun, and they're really good at it. I'm also so curious about the season finale. I wonder if they're going to do like a 20 years later or 30 years later or some kind of time jump the way that they did at the end of The Next Generation or the way that they did at the end of Voyager. Part of me would love to see what happens to this crew after they leave the Cerritos. But it's also quite possible that instead they just show this crew still going on adventures as if nothing's happened. I also kind of like that idea because even though this show is coming to an end, it just would kind of create this open door for perhaps another network to purchase the rights to this show and then to keep the storylines going. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. Then click or tap the screen to watch the next video in the series, or to watch a video that YouTube thinks you'll like.